Facebook. How are you guys doing? Well, this is Dr. Virginia. It's so good to see everybody. Really excited to see you today of all days because it is Wellness Wednesday. Wellness Wednesday. Super excited. For those who don't know, I am Dr. Virginia. What I do is I help people to transform their lives by developing a mindset for growth and success. And the folks that I work with predominantly are Christians, they're believers, and most of them are entrepreneurs, they're professionals, they are folks who have folks on the spectrum or folks who have a variety of special needs or other chronic medical needs. And for those reasons, they become entrepreneurs like myself. So those are the areas of expertise that I typically talk about. Thank you so much for joining. So today is our little mini Bible study on the book of Daniel. Why? Because I'm studying all of these wonderful people in preparation for some other things that I'm doing and some additional things that I'm doing, always trying to do better things in terms of learning about patient care, always trying to do better things as it relates to being a mental health coach and at this point being a business coach as well. So we are having tea this morning and my choices were lemongrass or matcha green tea. And so my daughter said, yeah, let's do the matcha. So we're going to try the matcha. Unfortunately, it does contain caffeine. So we will see if I end up bouncing off the walls by the end of this, but I am not going to delay the time. We are coming from Daniel chapter 1. And we're going to start out, and I'm just going to kind of read through and breeze through some highlighted portions, and then I'll go back and talk about each and every one. So just so you know, Daniel chapter 1 is talking about the year of basically Nebuchadnezzar when he comes over. And for those who don't know the story, definitely go back and read the whole thing. But we're going to just kind of focus on the teaching here. But basically the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim, who was one of the kings of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came and basically wrecked shop and took all the Israelites away, which was not a good thing, but it was something that had been prophesied that was going to happen. When you skip down to verse 3, it says, and the king ordered Ashpenaz, the chief of his officials, to bring in some of the sons of Israel, including some of the royal family and of the nobles, using whom there was no defect, who were good looking, showed intelligence in every branch of wisdom, endowed with understanding and discerning knowledge, who had the ability to serve in the king's court, and he ordered him to teach them the literature and language of the Chaldeans. Now, I did get a question about how to succeed in business when they feel like they don't have anything to offer or they feel like they don't have the finances. There's your answer right there. Didn't pick it up, we'll come back. But I just wanted you to know there was your answer. I told you I was going to talk about this today, and I did. So hopefully you caught that. If you didn't, I'll go back and teach on it. I'm just reading right now. And Daniel made up his mind that he would not defile himself with the king's choice food, with the wine which he drank. So he sought permission from the commander of the officials that he might not defile himself. Now God granted Daniel favor and compassion in the sight of the commander of the officials. But Daniel said to the overseer, please let your servants, this is down to verse 11 and 12, please test your servants for 10 days and let us be given some vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then let our appearance be observed in your presence and the appearance of the youths who are eating the king's choice food, and deal with your servants according to what you see. Verse 14 and 15, so it says he listened to them, this is the overseer, and tested them for 10 days. At the end of 10 days, their appearance seemed better, and they were fatter than all the youths had been eating the choice food. And then on verse 18, it says, and at the end of the days, the king had specified presenting to them. The commander officials presented them before Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them, and out of all of those, no one was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the king's personal service. As for every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king consulted them, he found them 10 times better. There's that number again. They asked for 10 days, 10 times better than all the magicians and conjurers, the soothsayers, priests, people who were in the know at that time, that's what they were called, who were in his realm. And Daniel continued until the first year of Cyrus the king. Now, that is your recipe for success in life and business right there. Boom, I could close the book and you guys could go home. If you didn't catch it, yes, I will go back and break it down. But I did want to read the whole thing because there are some people that are going to be like, oh my gosh, I never thought of it that way. And it just hit me. So let me break it down moment by moment for those who maybe didn't quite get it at that point. And that's okay. If you didn't get it, that's all right. No problems, no worries there. Sometimes I'll read something and I'm not quite sure what's going on. Then I'll reread it and I'll be like, wow, you know what? I totally get that. That is something that I normally wouldn't have gotten, but I totally get it now. So here's the deal. Here's why I want you to make sure that you understand this. First of all, you can succeed in difficult times. Okay? That's the first lesson that we learned from Daniel. You do not have to have perfect circumstances. Let me tell you something. If you are waiting for perfect circumstances to start the next phase or to be obedient and do the things that God has already told you to do, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Not going to happen. Okay, I can promise you that, because we don't live in a perfect world. We don't live in a perfect society. It is never going to be the perfect time to do anything. Now, it may be the right time for you to do it, even if the circumstances aren't perfect. But sometimes we have to move out, even if we don't see perfect standards or perfect circumstances, Sarah. So think about this. In the midst of the entire nation being held captive, Rixie, the cancer coach, and Cheryl, and despite the entire nation being held captive, just think about that for a moment, Daniel still was able to succeed. He was still able to do some wonderful things, Martine. He was still able to be successful in his craft, to be successful in his business at that time, to be successful in his ministry. Daniel was successful in all of those things, and it didn't matter what the circumstances were. It didn't matter what was going on in the nation, and it didn't matter what was going on in the world. At this time, Nebuchadnezzar was wrecking shop. He was like conquering the world, okay? Like something else that I could mention, but I don't think that's conquering the world, but it is definitely impacting and affecting the world. But he was still able to be successful. So that's number one. Please don't allow your circumstances to dictate success to you. Don't do it. Don't do it. All right, jump down to verse 3 and verse 4. This is what Daniel did. He could have just said, oh, woe is me. Earth is going to hell in a handbasket. Excuse my language, but, you know, and we're not going to succeed. We're not going to make it. I might as well just give up. Okay, Daniel didn't give up. He took the God-given qualities that he had and he used them. He honed them, and he did them in one of two ways. He excelled in the areas that he already was very, very good at. And then the area that he had no knowledge and that he didn't do well, he had mentors that helped him. He had teachers that helped him. Did you miss it? Go to verse 3 and verse 4. In verse 3, it said that the king basically had the chief pick any of the sons of Israel who had no defect, who were good looking. So they were working with what they had. Okay, work with what you have. Okay, they were good looking. So there was something about their posture, their countenance, their physical appearance. There was something appealing about that. You have something about your physical that is a good God-given thing. So work that, whatever it is. Maybe you've got a great, brilliant mind. Maybe you're incredibly crafty with your hands. Maybe you are good looking and you're a plus size model. I don't know what it is that you do, but you've got some attribute that is an innate God-given attribute that you can use. And we want you to continue to hone that and use it. And it says that he showed intelligence in every branch of wisdom. So he didn't just learn about one little thing, you know, become a jack of all trades, but a master of none. He really did try to master everything that was put in front of him. And it probably took a while for him to do that. But think about this, the way Israelite culture was, these children were trained from their youth, from little itty bitties, to learn certain things. So all the things that were put before him, he did try to excel in those things, okay? This is for that high school student who's like, you know what, whatever, I'm good over here, but I don't have to do that over there. No, excel in everything. This is for that college student, that master's level student, that doctoral student who is saying, well, you know, this is my major, but I'm not really even going to look at anything else. Don't do that. I did that. I was like, this is my major and I'm staying in this little hole. No, become well-rounded. And people do want that. Can't tell you how many applications I've read or areas that I've tried to work with and review with other young people, and they don't understand why they're making all A's and they're not getting into the colleges, universities they want. Or the patients who are in high achieving, high level jobs, or folks who are in just run of the mill jobs who are saying, I don't understand why I'm not getting promoted. And they've kind of niched themselves into one little thing, and they don't know enough about the other things to be promoted to the supervisory position. Because if you're a supervisor, you're not just supervisor of your little job. You're a supervisor over all the different places. So you have to be intelligent. You have to know your game. Okay, you have to come correct with what you have. Okay, maybe you didn't know a whole lot about your business. Natalie's on the line, and I see her. She may not have known a whole lot. I'm putting you on blast a little bit, Natalie, but she may not have known a whole lot about paparazzi when she first started. But she took the time to take her natural giftings that she already did know something about and broaden them and kind of hone them in, which is what the end of verse 4 says. It says he continued, and they were endowed already with understanding and discerning knowledge, who had the ability to serve in the court. We're coming back to that service. But then it says the king ordered them to be taught in literature and language of the Chaldeans. They didn't know anything about the literature and language of the Chaldeans. These were Hebrews. They knew the Hebrew language, and they may have known a couple of other languages, but not the language of the Chaldeans. Okay, they had to learn that. They had to learn a different language. Okay, and have older people have to learn a different language from scratch, de novo. Not the easiest thing, but they learned it. Okay, you're trying to go into a business and you don't know what an ROI is, and you don't know what a strategic plan is, and you don't know what your investment strategy is or what that even means, learn it. You don't know what tax bracket you are in. You don't know what LLC you should be or whether it should be an S Corp or a C Corp. Learn it. Get with somebody that can help you out. Okay, please don't go alone. Never sink alone. Load the boat so that other people can help you bail until you can get to shore or get to your destination. Okay, then you all get to celebrate. The other thing is that Daniel, again, despite his circumstances, he learned to serve. Right now, there are a lot of people that are struggling, and there is a huge health crisis, and there's a need. There's a call right now for public health volunteers, whether you're medically trained or not. Okay, it doesn't hurt to serve, and you don't have to. Oh well, maybe I can't go physically be there, or I'm immunocompromised. Okay, fine, pick up a phone. There are crisis lines and hotlines where people are calling in and they just want to be reassured. They just want information. You can be trained in a webinar online and then man a telephone. Okay, you need something to do. You're kind of bored. You're feeling a little helpless and lonely and frustrated. Your mental health is lagging a little bit. Go and serve. Go and volunteer. I've heard that from so many people, and I teach it myself, that if you volunteer, if you help another person, usually does make your concerns about yourself diminish a little bit and does improve your mental health. Believe it or not, it really does. And it can help you along in the long run. The other thing that we learned from Daniel, skipping down to verse 8, is that Daniel was instrumental in learning the art of negotiation. He was very good at that. He knew how to negotiate. Let me explain to you why. And he knew how to present his case, and he knew how to negotiate. And those are separate things, but I'm going to explain to you why. So first it says Daniel made up his mind, and you have to have a made up mind, that he wasn't going to defile himself with the king's choice food. So he sought permission from the commander of the officials. He had to advocate for himself. He had to open his mouth. He had to say, look, I don't really feel comfortable eating these meats and eating these other things. The thought is that it was likely swine and sweetmeats, and those were things that, according to Jewish law, Hebrew law, he wasn't supposed to have, so he didn't want to defile himself by doing those things. And so first he sought permission. He didn't just say, I'm doing this my way. I'm going to do whatever the heck I want to do. No, he said, let me get permission. Okay. And he did ask, and the first time the report back from the overseer was, well, you know what? I don't really know if I want to do that. It says, commander said in verse 10, I'm afraid of my lord the king, who has appointed your food and drink. For why should he see your faces looking more haggard than they are? He says, then you would make me fit my head to the king. So initially the overseer was like, you know what? I really appreciate your situation, but I also appreciate my situation as well. And I like my head and I'd like to keep it. So he did not want to put himself at risk at this point. So Daniel was able to state his case. And Daniel was able to advocate for himself because he'd already had a made up mind. He already knew what he wanted to say. But on some level, we know that Daniel must have had some kind of a conversation with God and that had favor of God, because it tells us right here in verse 9. Now, God granted Daniel favor and compassion in the sight of the commander of the officials. So he was able to talk to the official knowing that, he had favor, and the rest is history. Basically, Daniel was able to go back to the overseer. The overseer said, yes, you can go ahead and do this. He was able to negotiate with him in this process. Verse 11 talks about the negotiation skills that he used. 11, 12, 13. He says, you know what? Test me. Let us eat the way that we would like to eat for 10 days, talking about Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And then let your other youths eat the way that they normally eat. And we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens. I want you to see if we look better. And what happened at the end of the 10 days, they did look better. They did look healthier. And so the overseer said, good, fine. You guys can eat whatever you want. Okay. The next very successful step here that I really want to make sure that you get is it says in verse 18, 19, and 20, and I don't want you to skip past this. There's another step here. It says, then at the end of the days, which the king had specified presenting them, the commander of the officials presented them before Nebuchadnezzar, and the king talked with them. And out of all of the people that were presented before the king, it said, there was none found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the king's personal service. Now I want you to go back here. If you look back at the beginning of chapter 1, you see that the king basically picked all of these different people, all of these different youths, noblemen, royal people, non-royal people, anybody that kind of appealed to him for whatever reason. Whole lot of people. But out of all of those people, it was only these 4 that stood out to the king. And there was something about the additional little extra that they did. I have nothing wrong with niches. I have nothing wrong with knowing who your target audience is, your ideal client, or knowing that you want to target something or have a specific goal for your mental health or how you're going to do things in your life. I get that, and that is wonderful. But you have to make sure that you're keeping the main thing the main thing. It says when the king talked to them, they were able to eventually enter in the personal service. Their original goal, one, was to glorify God. That's number one. Their second goal was not to defile themselves as they were within the king's service. But another thing that was here was that they wanted to excel and they wanted to do well. And the idea was that they were going to get to the place that they were able to serve the king at some point. And how do I know that? Go back to chapter 4. Remember I said we picked this back up? Go back to chapter 4. It said the king was looking at people who had ability for serving in the king's court. Okay? And there's another little translation of that says standing in the king's court. So those were people who, these were folks on some level, they already had been groomed in some way to be able to stand before royalty, to come before for princes and kings. You know, you are a chosen nation, a royal priesthood. You have the ability to stand before kings and queens. You do. That's part of your new DNA if you're a believer. That's part of your new DNA. But here's the thing. There's one thing to just randomly stand in the court. And that's cool. There's nothing wrong with being able to go and stand in the court and stand before kings and stand in places and have the ear of people that you're able to provide information. There's another thing. When you take, again, that innate ability plus a desire to truly serve people, you combine them together and you really put your everything in it and you go all in. That's what verse 19 is talking about. These four went all in. They were like, okay, you know what? We're good people. We're intelligent. We know how to do this thing. And we want to serve and we know how to serve. But guess what? We are really going to do the darn thing. We are going to go and give this our all. And you can tell because by the time they were able to present themselves, I don't think they just went haphazardly to the king. I'm sorry. I'm just using my Holy Ghost imagination here. But I don't think they just haphazardly went to the king, was just like, oh, all right, king, yeah, this is us in all our glory. Yeah, we're the chosen people of God. And what? I really don't think they did that. I think they respected the king as an authority figure, right? I think they gave honor to him as an authority figure. I think they knew that they were all that and a bag of chips, but they still kept it in check to the point that they still were like, you know what, this is still a person who God has appointed at this time, okay? They have been appointed at this time to serve this person, and they were wanting to serve this person to the best of their ability. So they came with their A game, not their B or their C. Honestly, when people are like, oh, well, I'm gonna bring my A game today. Well, what do you normally bring? Do you normally just bring your B game or your C game? I don't understand if you're sick and you're not that well and you're like, well, yeah, I've had to bring my less than my best. But, you know, generally we should be serving. We should be wanting to serve others all the time with our A game. Okay, we should always be wanting to give that, regardless if it's a person that we agree with or not. Nebuchadnezzar was not the nicest king. Okay, try to set some people on fire. He was not the nicest king. But because that was a person who was in authority at that time, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah decided, or Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, however you want to call them. Daniel was actually also called Belteshazzar. Whatever name you want to attribute to them, I think they knew who they were, and they were confident in who they were, and their identity. But they decided, you know what, we're going to give him our best. We're going to give it our best. We're going to give it our best. We may not agree with his policies. We may not agree with his procedures. We may not agree with everything he says. But for the sake of the kingdom, we're going to give it our best. Okay. And so what happened? It says because of that, the king consulted them more than anyone else. And it says they were 10 times better than all the other magicians, conjurers, other people who were providing wisdom at that time. Okay. And I think that's a chicken and an egg. It's kind of a nice little cycle. The more you learn and the better you do, the more people are going to want to reach out to you for your expertise and your advice. And then the more they're going to refer other people to you, and they're going to come back to you again and again and again. I will tell you, I've been practicing my private practice for 5 years now. And in the past 5 years, 4 of those 5 years, now I want you to just sit back and think about this for a minute, okay? 4 of the last 5 years, I did not advertise. Guess how much I spent on advertising for Led Life LLC in 4 of the past 5 years? Zero. Z to the row. That's why I do Kingdom Business Entrepreneurship right now, classes with people. That's why we're doing the live prayer and business retreat, because I don't think it has to be the way people typically think things have to be, to have a business that is God-centered and have a business that can be successful and God-honoring. And you're not, I mean, yeah, you are going to pour out some blood, sweat, and tears, but it's not going to be the traditional way that you would think. I think that when you do things a certain way, I just do believe that you get, what did he say? Favor and compassion in the sight of other people. My business for the first 4 years was completely 100% referral and word of mouth. 100% referral and word of mouth. 100% referral and word of mouth. It was. I had people, and only a very few people followed me from my previous position. So it wasn't like I took a whole lot of people with me. I moved to a completely different state. It's not that. I think that when you do things in excellence, and when you have a goal in your mind to be well and do well and to serve others, then it will help. And here's the last part of that, verse 21. It says, and Daniel continued until the first year of Cyrus the king. That is, there's two C words I want you to catch. One they explicitly said and one that's implied. Daniel continued. He continued. Now I don't know if you know this, but I've got a nice little timeline in my book, and it actually tracks the kings during Daniel's time. And this time where they were initially taken captive by Nebuchadnezzar goes all the way to this like seriously long, lengthy period of time following afterwards, several years, pretty much 70 years. That's the time they were in captivity. But Daniel served through at least 4 kings. He served Nebuchadnezzar, he served Cyrus, he served Daniel, Darius. He served, I think there were 2 Dariuses that he served. So there was a significant period of time that Daniel served. He didn't give up when things got different, when he had to change regimes. He wasn't just like, I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done with you, nation of Israel. I'm done with you, kings. You can't make up your mind what you want to do. I'm done with you, politicians and soothsayers and other people bending my ear. I'm done with you. He didn't do that. Persevered and he continued. So in your business, I've heard this from many different people. I've interviewed lots of successful people. And success is not just monetary success, but success in a variety of things. And the biggest thing that I see from people when I ask them, well, what's the secret sauce to you being successful in your lifestyle, your business, your family, your home, working with your special needs child, whatever it is, what works? And the number one answer really is consistency. It really is consistency. To consistently. I've been doing some type of a live stream or teaching in some way, shape, or form since 2016. 2016. I think that's pretty consistent. All right. I hope you appreciated that. I hope that was helpful for you. We're coming up on the 25-minute mark, so I'm going to go ahead and end. But I do thank you for joining, and I appreciate you being here. Again, I'm Dr. Regina, and I help people transform their lives by developing a mindset for growth and success. And the folks that I predominantly do that with are folks who want to be better in terms of their overall health and wellness as it relates to their lives, but also as it relates to their kingdom business. So I hope this has been helpful for you and that you have a very blessed day on purpose. Take care. Bye-bye.